So in the last class, we started with the topic of eccentrical loading for riveted joints and shear. So we have understood that the applied load will be causing a direct effect and also an indirect effect. So direct effect is a load only, but the indirect effect is a moment. So the direct effect, that is a load, will be giving rise to shear stresses, and indirect effect, that is moment, will be also giving rise to shear stresses, or first of all shear loads. So we have found out those directions and also magnitudes of those loads, and we got the net shear load and divided by area of cross sections to get the value of stress. So this stress value, depending upon the net shear force value on each and every rivet, will be varying from rivet to rivet. So it might be a situation that rivet number 1 is the highest loaded rivet, or rivet number 4 is the highest loaded rivet. It might be in that way. So whichever is the highest loaded rivet, that should not experience load in such a way or at that magnitude such that the load is giving rise to stress which is more than the shear strength of the material. If it is more than the shear strength of the material, that rivet will fail. If at least one rivet is failing, that is enough to call that this particular riveted joint or this riveted joint, whatever we are using, is failed. So we have to make sure the highest loaded rivet is giving rise to or is experiencing a stress which is less than the shear strength of the material. In most of the cases and most of the questions, they will ask you about the shear stress or the shear load induced in the worst loaded rivet or the highest loaded rivet. Clear? So we have seen one example, this particular question, and then we have seen given this question as a homework. So I hope you guys have tried this question. If you have tried this question at least before coming to this class and you got some answer, definitely today you're going to understand, or you're going to stay ahead of other people who haven't done that. Yeah. So what is the answer for this question? May I know the answer for this? So I was not sure whether it is 15 kilonewton or 17 kilonewton. May I know the correct answer for this? It's 17 only, everybody? Okay, fine. So I'll solve this question so that if there is any doubt, you guys can get it clarified. Okay. So it's given that a steel plate connected to a fixed channel using 3 identical bolts A, B and C carries a load of 6 kilonewton as shown in the figure. Considering the effect of the direct load and moment, the magnitude of resultant shear force on bolt C is. So they're already telling us or asking us to get the value of shear force on bolt C. They're asking us to get the shear force. Okay, they're asking us to get the shear force value here. Understand? They're not asking us to get the value of shear stress. You should be very clear what exactly they're asking. At least this question is a multiple choice question. So you guys can see from the options whether your answer is matching or not. Okay. But if it is numerical answer type and instead of giving the value of shear force, if you are giving the value of shear stress, what happens is you are doing extra one step which will be time consuming, and also after doing that amount of effort or keeping that amount of effort, you are going to enter a wrong answer. So you should be very clear what exactly is being asked in the question. Understand? So one of the first basic step, very basic step which everybody can take care to avoid getting negative marking or 0 marks in a question is just read the question properly. You can be smart in doing calculations, you can be faster in doing calculations, many things, okay, but you should be reading the question thoroughly. You should inculcate this habit. So when you're going in test series, going through test series, or when you are solving previous gate questions also, you make sure you are giving sufficient amount of time to solve or read the question. Read the question. So once you read the question properly, and when you read the question, you should be clear about 2 things. First thing is the data given in the question. Second thing is the objective of the question, or what exactly they are asking in the question. If these 2 things are clear, that means you have read the question properly. So always you assess yourself after reading the question, whatever the data given in the question you have understood or you have taken it correctly. And second thing is what is the objective of the question. So once you are clear about these 2 things, that means you read the question properly. So you invest time, sufficient amount of time. So only the extra amount of time you will be keeping to achieve or to get correct answer or correct understanding about the data and the answer. Data and the objective of the question will be in seconds only. It will not be taking much time. So kindly inculcate this habit. So coming to this, we have to get the value of primary and secondary loads to get the net load on this bolt or the rivet number C here. So if you see this arrangement A, B, C, they are along a straight line, horizontal straight line, and they are spaced with same distance. The distance between AB is 50 millimeters and distance between BC is also B and C is also 50 millimeters. That means the centroid of these three rivets will be coinciding with the rivet B itself. Yeah. So if you take the three rivets, this is A, this is B, this is C. So A, this is B, and this is C. Now, if you transfer the load from the applied location to the centroid of the arrangement here, this is a centroid. Okay, this is centroid here. So that will be giving rise to an applied load of P and moment of P into E. In this case, if you observe, load P is equal to given as 6 kilonewton and eccentricity is equal to given as 50 plus 30 plus 170. So 250 millimeters. Millimeters. So now, if you take the force arrangement, so this P will be giving rise to primary force at each and every rivet. You take this as 1, you take this as 2, you take this as 3. So this will become P1 dash, this is equal to P2 dash, and this is equal to P3 dash. So here we should be having an idea that we are going to find out the net load on this particular rivet. We are not concerned about forces on other two rivets here. So we can directly concentrate on this one. Now if you take this radial distances, so this is R1, this is R2, and they're like this. So I'm dropping the perpendicular here. Now to create the clockwise rotation, so this is a clockwise rotation and this is a clockwise rotation. So if that is the situation, we should have secondary load on this rivet to be in this direction, in this rivet should be in this particular direction here. Okay. Now, if you take down these magnitudes, we have primary load for any rivet is equal to given as total load by N. So here total load is 6. So 6 kilonewton by 3, it comes out to be 2 kilonewton. So P3 dash is nothing but, so this is equal to P3 dash. So we need P3 dash value, P3 double dash value. So P3 double dash value, P3 dash value, we got it as 2 kilonewton. Now we have to get the value of secondary load. So if you take like this, Pi double dash, or in fact we should be getting third one only, directly I'll put it as 3 itself. So this is equal to given by formula Pe R3 by R1 square plus R2 square plus R3 square. In this one, if you take the data for this one, load P is equal to given as 6 kilonewton. I'm taking the load P in kilonewton, E in millimeters, R in millimeters, R, R1, R2, R1, R2, R3 also in millimeters. So what happens is, you will be getting the net value in kilonewtons only, because millimeter square, millimeter to millimeter and millimeter square will get cancelled out. You will be getting the value of P3 double dash in the same units as P dash, same units as P itself. Clear? So you don't need to do the conversion of units to SI units. So you take this value of E we already know it as 250 millimeters, and we have R1 value is nothing but as this one, which is given as 50 millimeters. R2 value is equal to 0. R3 value is again 50 millimeters. R2 is coinciding. Okay, it's coinciding with the centroid. So Ri value is nothing but distance of the distance of the rivet from the centroid. So as they are both are coinciding, R2 value will become 0. If you substitute all these values, this gives you P3 double dash value as 15 kilonewton. You can check the calculations. Okay, so we'll be getting it as 15 kilonewton. So substituting here, if you take the net value, P net of third one is equal to square root of P1 dash square P1 double dash square plus 2 P1 dash P1 double dash cos theta 3. So because we are concerned about the third rivet here, cos theta 3. Theta 3 value, if you observe, this is nothing but 0 degrees. So here theta 1 is equal to 180 degrees. Theta 2 is not existing. I hope you people can understand now. Not existing, the difference between not existing and becoming 0. So here it is 0. Something can be there here, can be there, but here it is 0 value. But here theta 2 cannot exist at all. Understood? So if you substitute in this, anyways, you can substitute cos theta 3 as 1 and all these things and all, you can get the value, or simply you can say that there are two forces acting on this, both are acting in the same direction, so simply add it up. 15 plus 2, 17 kilonewton. So whether you apply this formula, or whether you go by, whether you apply this formula or just understand from this diagram itself, that gives you same answer. So you should be smart. Okay, if you are applying this formula and substituting P1 dash value, P1 double dash value, sorry, it should be P3. So if you are substituting all these primary force value, secondary force value, okay, and cos theta 3 value, then you are taking little bit more amount of time. You should be little bit faster. Understood? So if you think about giving answer for this one, that is secondary net load on this first rivet number 1. So you can simply say P1 double dash will definitely come out to be equal to P3 double dash, because R1, R2, R1, R3 both are same. Remaining everything is same. So this is secondary load is 15, primary load is 2. Both are in opposite sense here. So net load will become 13. Understand? So this is 15, this is 2, net load will become 13 kilonewton. Understand? So anyways, our answer is about this one. So the answer for this question is equal to 17 kilonewton. Clear everyone? So I know that everybody got the correct answer. Now what you should be improving, or you should be understanding is, you should eliminate all the unnecessary steps. So anyways, this comes with practice only, but remember how you can fastly solve the question. So when you observe this type of arrangement, you can simply eliminate this particular step. If simply they will ask you net force on this rivet number 2, simply you understand that it's coinciding with the centroid, so find out the primary force and give that as an answer. Like that, you just have to think fast. Clear everyone? I hope there is no doubt regarding this question. Now take, okay. So a horizontal plate has been joined to a vertical post using 4 rivets arranged as shown in the figure. The magnitude of the load on the worst loaded rivet in Newton is. So here they are asking what is the load, what is the magnitude of the load. So here they are asking about the load, the net load on the worst loaded rivet. So we should be finding out which rivet is the worst loaded rivet, and we have to get the net load on the particular rivet. So we have two challenges here. First of all, we should identify which rivet is the worst loaded rivet. Just by looking at the diagram, we can't do the guessing game. So in gate examination, always you have to keep in mind to eliminate the guessing game. Okay, so you should not do it unless using the options you can narrow down to single option. Then only you should be go with that one. Clear? So that is not at all using guessing. That's never possible by guessing. Understand? So if you look into this particular arrangement of rivets, we can say that load P is equal to given as 400 Newton, eccentricity distance is equal to given as 500 millimeters. Okay, so if you take the 4 rivets, they are like this. They are the 4 corners of a square. So this is the centroid. Now applied load will be giving rise to this direct load and the moment here. So direct load, if you are dividing by each and every rivet, this is first rivet, second rivet, you take it this as 3, this as 4. So if I am taking the primary and secondary load directions, they will be like this. P1 dash, this is P2 dash, this is P3 dash, and this is equal to P4 dash. This is a centroid. So you guys already know whatever may be the rivet, primary load value is equal to P by N. So here total load is 400. 400 by 4, this will become 100 Newton. So please be careful with the units. In this question, every force is given in Newton only. So I am taking it as Newton directly. Now to get the directions of secondary loads. So Sunil Kumar, you can look here. To get the directions of secondary load, first of all we should plot R1, R2, R3, R4 respectively. R2, R3, R4. So here the diagram is not completely according to the scale. Otherwise, this R1, R3 will be collinear lines. In the same way, R2, R4 will be also collinear lines. And you can understand from the geometry that R1, R2, R3, R4 all are equal in magnitude. Okay? Understood? Now, you know that whatever the secondary load comes, that will be perpendicular to this particular R1, R2, R3, R4. Now, to get clockwise rotation to happen. This is like this, clockwise rotation, clockwise rotation, clockwise rotation, clockwise rotation. So if clockwise rotation should happen, this is P1 double dash, this is equal to P2 double dash, this is equal to P3 double dash, and this is equal to P4 double dash. I hope everybody have understood how we are getting these directions of secondary loads. Now you get the angle. Now if you get the angle will be like this. The angle is angle between primary and secondary load. So this is the angle here, this is the angle here, this is the angle here, and this is the angle. Like I said earlier, you can take any angle between the two lines. So two forces basically. So you can take this angle or you can take this angle also. Both will give you the same answer. You can take this angle or you can take this angle. So generally it is better to take lesser angle, because if it is 30 degrees, cos 30 you know what is the value. And as a sin 30 value you know it here. But if you are taking the larger value, so 30 degrees means another way it is 360 minus 30 or 330 degrees. Sin of 330 degrees, cos of 330 degrees, it becomes very difficult for you to do the calculation. And again, that will take some time. So you should be putting appropriate steps, correct steps, which can give you the answer fastly and accurately. Now if you measure these angles, here, from the geometry we can say, if you have a square, if a square is like this, and this is the diagonal, okay, so you know that this is equal to 45, this is 45, this is 45, so every angle is 45 degrees. Now if this is 45 degrees, and you guys know that this particular angle is 90 degrees, so secondary load will always be perpendicular to R1, R2, R3, R4 respectively. So this is 40, this is 90, this is 90, this is 90, and this is 90. Now if that is the case, you can understand the angles very easily. So theta 1 value, you can simply say this as 90 degrees and this is 45 degrees, I said. So this is 90, this is 45. Because I told that secondary load is like this, P1 double dash, and primary load is like this, downward. So I am putting with the blue color, P1 dash, okay, and this is the angle, okay. So in this way we can easily say the directions. So P2 double dash, P3 double dash, P4 double dash, and if you take the primary angles, primary forces, P2 dash, P3 dash, P4 dash. So if you are measuring these angles here, so theta 1 comes out to be this 90 plus 45 degrees, 135. Theta 2 comes out to be, this is the angle here, so obviously this becomes 45 degrees. In the same way, theta 3 comes out to be another 45 degrees, and theta 4 comes out to be 135 degrees. So this is the angle here. So this is the very, very important step of this particular question, because using this angle only you are going to decide which is the worst loaded rivets. Ideally speaking, what you should be doing is you should get the value of P nets, that is a net force for first rivet, second rivet, third rivet, fourth rivet. So you should do the calculation for each and every step, each and every rivet. You should do the each and every step and you should be getting the 4 values, and out of those 4, whichever is the highest value should be giving that as the answer. But there is a very time consuming process. So here you can do that means you can eliminate lot many steps just by thinking a little bit extra here. How? If you get the value of secondary load for any rivet, here R1, R2, R3, R4 are same. P and E are also same. P and E is common to the whole joint. R1, R2, R3, R4 are same for each and every rivet. So secondary load will remain same. So for this square arrangement, you have secondary loads as same itself. So if you calculate the values PE, Ri by R1 square, R2 square, R3 square, and R4 square. So you can get the secondary load value for this particular thing here. Okay, so you got the secondary load value. You can get the calculate. You can do the calculations. Now you got primary load, secondary load. Okay, so if you assess which one will have the highest value of net load, so if you take the net load formula, this is given by Pi dash square, Pi double dash square plus 2 Pi dash, Pi double dash cos theta I. So the P net I will be different for different rivets based upon primary load value, secondary load value, and cos theta value here, because these three values are deciding the net force value here. But here only we understood shortly before we understood that primary load value, secondary load value is same for all rivets. So the difference, if it is coming, that comes based upon cos theta I value. So using them, if you get the cos theta I values, so cos theta 1 is cos of 135 degrees, that will become minus 1 by root 2. Kindly check it. Cos theta 2 is equal to 1 by root 2. So again, cos theta 3 is also this cos theta 4, and this is equal to cos theta 3. So you have these cos theta 1 value, cos theta 2 value, cos theta 3 and 4 like this. Now you got these values here. If you see the theta value, which is cos theta value, which is higher in all the four cases, is 1 by root 2. So when theta is theta 2 or theta 3, that means theta 2, theta 3 will be giving rise to, because as they are same, they will be giving rise to highest value of load. So rivet number 2 and 3 are worst loaded rivets. So 2 and 3 are worst loaded rivets. Okay, so as theta is same, both will be having same value. Okay, so you'll be getting them. So if you substitute in this formula, you'll be getting the answer. So 1840, 1839.83 like that. Whatever the answer you guys are given is the right answer. 1839.4 Newton. So they're asking us to give the answer in Newton's units. It's not kilonewtons. So we should be giving as Newtons only. If they have asked in kilonewtons, then our answer would have been 1.83 or 1.84. Clear? That would be our answer. I hope there is no doubt here. Lesser is the theta, lesser is the force. We should not be deciding like that. Higher is the force, higher is the cos theta. Because cos theta value will be varying like this. You can see here, cos theta function variation, if you take it, theta, this is cos theta value. Cos theta varies like this, sinusoidally here. So this is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees. So this is 90 means this will become 180 degrees. And this will become 90, 90, 90, 270 degrees here. Okay, so at 360 degrees, this will become like this. Okay, so cos theta value is going on decreasing from 0 to 90. From 90 to 180 again, it's becoming negative here. And remaining also negative, it's like this. So variation is, if the cos theta variation is like this, with respect to theta, cos theta variation is like this. Higher is the angle, lesser is the cos theta. In that way, we can use it. Okay, or maybe it is in that way that theta is going on increasing means cos theta will be going on increasing. In that way, if you are taking, then that would be giving rise to first step of statement. But here it is not the case. Please remember that net force is depending upon cos theta value. You take any theta value. I'm not concerned about the range or anything. From 0 to 360 degrees, you take any theta value there. Whatever the value of theta that is giving rise to cos theta is higher, that will give rise to highest value of net force or net shear force here. Understood? So if everything is clear, we will go ahead with the other type of eccentrical loading. So this is a little bit different. Okay, and approach is also a little bit different. And we got a huge number of questions from this part only. We have very less number of questions from the second part, but there is definitely good amount of probability that questions can be coming. Questions might come in GATE 2020 or 21 examinations from this part as well. Yeah? So shall I go ahead with the next section? Angle between the two forces, primary and secondary, you take this value or you take this value, both will give you the same answer. Because cos theta value is equal to cos of 360 minus theta value. You can check it with any value of theta, you'll get the same answer. That's the reason why you take outer angle or you take inside angle, you will get the same. But it is advisable to take lesser angle so that you can do the calculations faster. Okay?